Hello, Camp Pros, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast. My name is Travis Allison. I'm a summer camp marketing and strategy consultant, and I help camps translate what they do so that more families insist on sending their kids to summer camp. I'm excited today to welcome a special guest, new co-host for today, because we have a very specific and topic that I've been looking forward to for a long time. So I wonder, Aaron, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Aaron Gluckstein. I'm Assistant Director at Camp Robin Hood in the Toronto area, and also I oversee the camp leadership and team building programs that we run in the shoulder season, as well as a focus on transportation and staffing during the summer months as part of the summer program we run.
Cool. Thanks, Darren. I'm glad you're here. And Sam, how about you?
Hi, I'm Sam Thompson. I'm a recreation supervisor for the Crystal Lake Park District, which is northwest of Chicago, Illinois. I run day camps and in addition have things during the winter that I run preschool and before and after school as well. So. Right.
Sam, I'm so grateful that you're here. For those listening or watching the video, some hints about what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. But Sam, how did you get involved in summer camp yourself?
I was a camper in a variety of camps, Brownie Day Camp, 4-H camp, church camp, resident end day, and then I've worked at quite a few camps over the years. I've been at this particular camp for 32 years. So.
Amazing. What for you was the one moment where you decided, this is it, I'm in this for life?
I think when I was 7, and I still remember my counselor's name. It was a 4-H resident camp at the time, and I still do some traditions in my camp now that I learned back then. So these are my people.
Amazing. Well, Sam, I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I get that. Aaron, how did you get started at camp?
For me, I spent many years as a camper, as I'm sure almost everyone has, and I ended up, continuing on as a CIT and staff through my educational years. It happened to be at Camp Robin Hood for most of those years. I did take a hiatus and did some overnight camp in my time as a camper, but ended up really being connected to Camp Robin Hood. So I stayed on as a staff member. After I graduated, I did enter the real world for a couple years, but never really had a passion for what I was doing. I was actually working in advertising and marketing, and had an opportunity to come on board full time here about 10 years ago, and so it's been probably a 25-year stint as a staff at camp, but 10 years as a full-time member of the team here.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Aaron. We're grateful to have you. We may also be joined by Andy Perdican from Liberty Lake Day Camp. We're not sure if he's able to come in, but he may jump in the middle of this, in which case I'll get him to do a quick introduction. But longtime listeners of the CampHacker podcast will have heard Andy a few times, and so you know Andy's story. So Sam and Aaron and Andy have one thing in common, that is they are great leaders in the day camp world. And I've often said on the show that we do not do enough to acknowledge and talk about the issues that are very specific to day camps. So today's topic is the big issues of day camp this year. What are the things that have come up in the last 12 months that are really driving camps that camp directors are spending a lot of time and energy dealing with? And so we thought we'd devote some good solid time today to what that looks like. And Sam, you had a place that you thought would be a good position for us to start in.
Sure. There's a couple misconceptions about day camps. One, that it's daycare. And though we may
Yes.
care for kids during the day, we are intentional youth development. So the challenge of convincing parents and campers, as well as people in the field, that that's what we do. And then the other thing, some people think there's no traditions or program progression or culture in day camp, which could each be a podcast on their own, each of those sections.
Yes.
So,
Right.
that I would love to dispel the misconceptions.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So, so taking them one at a time, and let me start at the end of what you just said, that people don't believe that there are culture or rituals around camp, and those traditions and rituals are really the heart of what makes all camps successful. What sort of things are you folks doing, Sam, that really brings those traditions to light every day?
Well, we have the opportunity, at least in my situation, to have the children from age 5 and get them hooked until they're 18. And so there's got to be things to look forward to at each level. Traditions, though, also that they know when they get to be a junior leader, they're in the skit at the overnight or whatever. So they look forward to some of those familiar, common traditions, but they also look forward to getting to progress as they go. And culture-wise, I guess the biggest example for me, we're inclusive. And so when you know your culture is working is when you see the kids starting to automatically do the things that include our special needs kids.
Right.
And so slow process sometimes getting that culture to take hold.
Right. All right. How do you work every year to make sure that you are intentional about all of those moments in your camps, Sam?
Well, you set up your framework and your policies and that, and it starts when you first are doing the interview. Everyone I interview is asked how they feel about inclusion, and I usually have my Williams syndrome guy meet them first, and he's very huggy, and if he hugs them and they cringe, that's kind of the end of the interview. So you start from the very beginning.
Right. Yeah.
And it's all through your whole program.
Yeah. Good. I think, Aaron, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this is because the strength of and how good Robin is at demonstrating their good traditions and moments. How do you think you folks have been so intentional about that?
Well, I think that just by design, we the concept of Camp Robin Hood has been to create the sort of experience of a traditional camp, of an overnight camp, almost in a day camp setting. So we've designed the facility to have the feel and look of an overnight camp. It's we're just outside the city, but we've built sort of a rustic facility. We have lots of open space where staff can take campers under a tree and do their own cabin programming, and we've developed traditions that complement the facility and the locations of certain annual or daily, weekly traditions that we have happen in certain spots that that are in line with the traditions, whether it be flagpole or or our tradition of waving goodbye to the kids as the buses leave each day. Those are things that that we've created spaces for specifically for at the camp, and the way that we approach our staffing and staff training, we our intention is to have the staff follow a scripted schedule that we create, but also to have certain periods each week where they're infusing their own creativity and programming that that uses the facility and uses the sort of idea of independent, creative thinking for the staff, and it's created a really nice mix of structured and a little less formal structured programming that we incorporate.
Yeah, awesome.
And that culture kind of bleeds into your staff too. They realize they're going to be supported, they're going to be able to be creative, and then word gets out that it's a good place to work, and you've got what you need.
Right, and then it just keeps perpetuating itself.
Yeah, and the tradition of the tradition of what we do, as Sam sort of was alluding, it trickles down to the staff, and we have several staff traditions also that keep people coming back and keep them happy and engaged in what we do, to ensure that they have a good time, so that in turn the campers will have a good time as well.
Right. So the first part of the things that you actually no, I don't want to leave this for 1 second. Sam, what do you do to let people know about those traditions and rituals, the things that really make camp? What do you do to tell people about that before they're part of the community?
Sure. I'm part of a big organization, so I don't have as much control over some of that as I'd like. But we do have a marketing department that is very helpful. We have a camp brochure that goes out early. Last year we finally got a video clip made of a day in camp, and that's on our website and all of our facilities, and that was very helpful. So just making sure that all our materials explain that we've got the lake and that we go canoeing and that we, do campfires, and they're going to be hiking, and, so I too, Erin, am kind of a traditional camp theme inside of a day camp as well. And I'm lucky to have some facilities, although in the afternoon we're in the schools. So I've got both dilemmas, hey, I've only got a ball field, and getting to use the other areas.
Yeah. Good.
Something I'd like to get better at, the marketing portion of it.
Right. Excellent. Aaron, I'm going to come to you in a second. I want to take a moment and just welcome Andy. Thanks for being here, Andy. We are just talking about how camps can, well, first of all, the perceptions of day camp, that it's just daycare, and that it is, that there may not be the same level of traditions and rituals or day in overnight camp. So, Andy, are you able to hear us? We got you.
Yes, I hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. So, Andy, what we've been talking about most is how day camps can make use of and be a part of having good traditions and rituals as part of the community building in their camp. You've started a camp from complete scratch fairly recently, not super recently, but fairly recently. What were the things that were very important to you that had to be there in terms of your traditions and rituals, the things that were the heart of the community of camp?
Well, to me, the low-hanging fruit is the assembly times, right? And it's really funny because I've dealt with a lot of camps, I've visited a lot of camps, and there are a lot of day camps that sort of forego that tradition of getting everybody together, like resident camps do at the flagpole kind of thing. Right. And you could make excuses, especially a big camp, and saying, oh, we're too big, it's so hard to get all these hundreds of people and that kind of thing. But those are just excuses. You could split the camp into smaller parcels, or find ways to build an amphitheater where everybody could come together. A Banner Day Camp, at one time they had over 1,000 people, 2,000 people, it seemed like, in this huge Roman amphitheater, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's super important. So I created assembly areas for each age group. I mean, we started when I started my camps, the first couple of years, everybody's together, and then when it starts growing, you parcel it out. So, okay, the first and second graders will meet here, the third and fourth graders meet there. I think that's really important. They're coming together at the beginning of the day, coming together at the end of the day. And just to fast forward to now with my big camp, Liberty Lake, 17 years down the road, we still do an all camp assembly at the beginning of the week and at the end of the week, all camp, just to give that sense of community. And then we, during the middle parts of the week, we are able to do it, by division. I will tell you, just to throw a shout out to Laura and Jack of your buddies.
Camp Stomping Ground.
Yeah, Camp Stomping Ground. Starting a camp from scratch, or running a town rec program or whatever it is, where there is no long history of traditions there, that I took so many great ideas from their journeys across the country. Because when you're starting a day camp, you need traditions. Like, traditions are a huge part of camp. You cannot dismiss that in any way. And kids latch onto them like, white on rice. So like, just a great perfect example is one of their 500 slides was a sleepaway camp out in the Midwest that had a backwards bridge, right? Very simple.
Right.
Put a sign. All you got to do is put a sign on both sides of the bridge that says backwards bridge. And now you've got a backwards bridge. And the next thing you know, all the kids in your camp are upholding the tradition of backwards bridge on day one.
Right.
It's just simple. So, and this is day camp, we're not trying to impress a bunch of teenagers here, like a sleepaway camp per se. So in a day camp setting, we're able to do really cheesy little things like that for younger kids that they just grasp onto and love.
Yeah. Right on. Well, that the way you mentioned that, Andy, makes me think of an idea that there are going to be people who listen to this who don't have established camps like the three of you do, but are maybe taking over a program or are the new camp director this summer of an ongoing rec program that has never been all that great, but they really want to bring something to it. And if you are thinking, like, this is the year we start this kind of stuff, this is the year we turn on as many traditions and rituals and silly songs and, the specific dance you do when you pass this tree or the backwards bridge, all of this can make a difference this year. Like, you can start now and make a difference, an impact going forward, because all these things make camp memorable, make it different than camp. One of my first staff experiences was at a camp that I didn't grow up at, and they had camp names, and I thought that was so weird, camp names. And I talked to the director about it, and he was quite patient with me. He just said, I will do everything I can to prove to kids that this place is different than school. And it was just thoughtful like about that. It's like, we don't have camp names because other camps have camp names. We have camp names because this place is special, and we're going to prove to kids that it's special in every way.
Yeah.
So
I think that literally, with our experience, especially in the sleepaway camp realm, the resident camp realm, there should be a checklist of things for a camp that are just no-brainers, like a birthday song, right, at lunchtime, and like Princess Pat, and just these basic things, which a new person coming into the realm of being the director of a camp should take and know. It doesn't have to be something that's borrowed. It could be a completely original thing. But this is, again, low-hanging fruit. That's really simple, easy things that kids just love and grasp onto, and that they don't do in school. You made a great point there, Travis.
Yeah.
One tradition that I think is really important is we still end the day singing. We do Happy Camper and singing and announcements. So having that closure, like you were talking about, the beginning and the end, and we do a special event day in the middle where all the camps come together, so they have some time to meet the other age groups and interact, and it's really exciting.
Those opening and closings, beginnings and ends, make such a big difference to the community. I've talked to a stunning number of camps who finished their week or finished their session with just by sort of fading away. It's like, oh, then the kids get picked up. I was like, what? Come on. That's such an important part of campus, to begin it well and end it well. Aaron, I jumped on what you were going to say.
No, I was just going to say, I think that like you just said, that the idea that we have those structured community focused events, and ending the day in a structured way, and starting it and having mass assemblies. I think all those things are what makes the difference between people who are professionally running camps and programs, daycare programs, and other similar programs in the city that that exist, that compete with us essentially, but they may call themselves camps, but people who know camp really appreciate the value of what we do as full-time professionally run camps. Those traditions are a key element of creating the community that we have here.
Yeah, and you can make them.
Yeah.
You could start from scratch and make them
Right.
tomorrow. And one last plug for Jack and Laura Stomping Grounds. If you go to their website, they actually have the slides from those presentations that they did at ACA National and at Tri-State. They're up there, and they'll be glad to talk you through them. They're just tremendous.
Yeah. So we'll make sure that those links are in the show notes. If you go to camphacker.tv/podcast, you will see this is episode 110. Look for this episode and you'll see the notes there. So you'll see the links to the stuff that Jack and Laura from Camp Stomping Ground did when they did their tour of, they've been to over 150 camps and have gathered information. So that's a resource that's there. Sam, when you were starting, you were talking about this perception of day camp as being just childcare or just a place to park your kids in a workday. How do day camps get beyond that? How do they change the perception of the people in their community?
Well, when a parent signs up with us, I like to congratulate them on their great choice for their child.
Mm-hmm.
And, they had to have them somewhere from this hour to this hour, but they chose to have it be more than just a one room where they're the oldest children in the building and they're not getting much outside time or interaction. So getting them in the door the first time, and then after that, we're good, because then once they've come, then they realize this is much more, and now the next year they're going to plan ahead and they're going to save their money and be registered early. But getting them in that door that first time, I think, is the dilemma.
Right. All right.
Yeah, I think getting them through the door is a big deal. Once they're here, we can apply all the magic tricks we want to them. But what she says, in a day camp setting, remember, we're getting people, it's their first time ever away from their parents in many ways. Yep. And that's such a huge step. Resident camp, most of those people, they've gone to some kind of day camp, or they've gone to some kind of thing where they've been away. Very few parents would ship their kids off to the middle of the woods without any kind of separation experience, let's call it. Right. So even taking kids from a daycare situation, which is what we do, at a daycare, the parents park their car, they come in, they schmooze with the teachers, they get a little piece of paper that says they had a brownie, they made a number 2, they, goes through all their details. And we're trying to train people that, at a camp, no news is actually good news, right? Which is a huge step in getting them. But just if I could address your question that you had to Sam, of how to sort of explain what camp is a little bit. When I do my new parent orientation, I do a new parent orientation, and I get a substantial amount of parents to sign up to it. I really sort of force it upon them and make it seem like it's a compulsory thing. And I talk about the journey of the hero, which I know a lot of camps talk about. This was a big Jeff Lyken thing a few years ago, a decade ago, and talk about how camp is an extraordinary world. And they're going to learn these things, and they're going to have trials and tribulations, and they're going to meet people that are helping them. They're going to meet people that are antagonizing them, right? And they're going to figure it all out, and they're going to find all these skills that they didn't know they had, and then they're going to take it back to their regular world, to their regular life, and apply them and make them better people. And I give that talk with my staff too, especially new ones that don't know what they've gotten themselves into. And I really think that sort of helps frame the experience in some ways for them.
Yeah, and for us, we've worked a lot over the past, maybe I would say 5 years, really put a focus on some of the new immigrant communities in the area that we operate, and just trying to differentiate, as I mentioned earlier, just differentiate ourselves from the other programs that that call themselves camps, or the benefit of going to camp versus spending the summer at summer school, which is a very important thing for some of these communities that we work with. We've invested a lot of time and effort, along with some other camps in the area that we're working with, to run seminars and ads in different language newspapers to try to educate these communities on the benefits of camp in the community, and the skills obviously that the kids are going to walk away with at the end of the summer. So not going to summer school doesn't mean not being educated, but just a different type of learning that they're going to be doing during the summer. So that's been a big focus for us, and it's been fairly successful in terms of increasing our reach outside of our typical community of kids who have been loyal to us through strictly through word of mouth advertising.
I got another thing, Travis, a couple of low-hanging fruit things that day camp people should be using to explain, the difference between camp and school and such, which is what Aaron's sort of getting on there, is outdoors, number one, right? Outdoors, and technology free, or faces away from screens. Right. Because, even these families from other countries, they get it, right? This new generation of parents, they get it. Their kids need to be outdoors. They see that we've taken a generation of people and they've been hijacked by technology, and they haven't been outside enough, and they've all got a trophy and all that kind of thing. And it definitely rings resonant with them. It resonates that this camp thing is outdoors within the elements. They're going to get sweaty. They're going to get hot. They're going to fall. They're going to scrape their knee. And 20 years ago, parents were like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And now they're like, yes, 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 yes. They want that. Right. So, and the parents need an excuse they need someone else to blame to get their kids away from technology. They say, oh, well, if you go to this camp, you can't bring your phone, you can't do this, can't do that. Right. And then they're fine with that. Then they don't have to worry about it. Right. Because these parents are coming home at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, and they're rushing through dinner, they're rushing through homework, and they do not have the time or energy to battle their kids about screen time. Right. Right. And so now they're sending them to us, and it's cut and dry. Can't do it. Right. And they love that. So those are two things that are easy nowadays that day camps and resident camps should be capitalizing.
So many of my special needs children also are so much more successful in the camp setting, in the outdoors, in the active world, than they would be in any other situation where they're meant to sit down and be still. They need to be at camp. They need to have that kind of education. So.
Yeah, and it's great.
And just to add to what Sam's saying, for us, that also integration has been a part of our philosophy for many years. And I think that at least the school system here in Ontario, up until recently, didn't have a lot of integration of children with different needs and abilities. And so the idea that a typically developing child could spend the summer in an environment where they're sort of on an equal playing field with with children of all abilities has really helped helps those kids grow as well, and to become better members of society in the future.
Yeah. Absolutely. We do one activity called tennis baseball, and so it's baseball with a tennis racket and tennis ball. And what this does is everyone can play. But because it's a bigger surface, everyone can hit the ball. The ball, you don't have to have a lot of arm strength that's going to go far, which is going to give you more time to get around the bases. So just about everyone can play, competitive, non-competitive. And it's wonderful to see the competitive kids get who needs what from them as they're being the outfield.
Yeah, that's been a big perk at my camp. I tell everybody that in regards to integrating in, an inclusion program with kids with needs, that I get just as many thank yous at the end of the summer from the parents of the typical kids saying what an amazing experience it was to have these kids in their group than I
Yeah.
do with the kids with the needs parents.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
definitely.
So I guess Andy that said this, and I'm curious to know: Aaron, do you folks have a new parents orientation of some kind?
So are you asking me?
Yes, I am.
We have we don't do a formal new parents orientation. We do have an online version of something we used to send out by mail, and we used to hand deliver a package that had sort of a welcome package with a number of different details. It was probably about 200 pages long. It was really a lot of material to read. So we streamlined it recently. We made it an online interactive guide. But we do have two open houses, I guess you would call them, that we do prior to the beginning of the summer that are geared towards new families mostly. Well, one specifically geared towards new families, and the other geared to everyone. But it gives those new families a chance to walk around with their kids with under the guiding sort of held hand of one of our senior people here, and they get to ask questions and walk around freely and look at all the things that they're going to be able to do in the summer. So it creates a level of comfort for those families and those campers. And something that's really nice that our registration director Patty always does when somebody new to camp signs up for the first time is that she always says welcome to the Robin Hood family, and it's like sort of her line that she has. And I think it's a nice thing that she does that makes a little thing but makes a difference for those new families.
Yeah, we also do besides the open houses and the new parent orientation, then we have a meet the counselors night. We have a meet and greet, we call it, where parents come out. We set aside like 3 hours on a weeknight, and they come out and they meet their counselors at the actual like picnic tables that they will meet them at when they get off the bus. So they get the names, they get the location down and all that. And then on that night, we have our nurses available, the inclusion team, the swim directors, the food directors, like all those different people for the parents to be able to face to face and interact with them. It's priceless, very priceless. And then, but I have to say, Aaron, I love your idea. I'm stealing your idea of the online version of the parent resource guide, because it is cumbersome. And, and ours isn't 200 pages, but still, I'm sure most people don't read it fully. And the more things that we can do on video, the better. 100.
Absolutely.
That's great.
I'm
idea.
stealing your idea, Andy, about having it on location for the parent night, because they come when they know they're going to meet their counselors. They won't come to the one where you're not meeting your counselors. So I've combined them.
Right.
But now I'm going to do it at their actual site, so they'll know exactly where to go. That's great.
Yeah. And they can imagine their child going to that, this is the first place that they go when they get off the bus or when you drop them off.
Right.
Yeah, that's really awesome. One thing I've heard of, and I know that more overnight camps are doing this, where they're doing, like we are, meeting using technology to do a video conference meeting, a new parents meeting online. Often I try to encourage camps to start to do that almost monthly or more in the new year. People are starting to sign up. And I've had some incredible stories of successes of that. One camp that I know of that is really good at metrics, they think that their orientation for parents, they cover one very small specific topic. So I guess, Aaron, it's kind of the same thing. Like we're dealing with one little piece in this, and then you're going to get another piece later, or you move on to the next piece. And they did sessions on how to help your child not miss home so much, how to prep your child for camp, how to do all that. And they felt, and did some tracking on this, that their incidences of homesickness were reduced by 80% by just doing 5 to 7 minutes on how to prep your kid, and then mailing that out to every family. So the magic trick to that was using teleconferencing software. They're able to record that and then just mail it out to everybody who registers after then, and all potential families. So I would say, for those of you who are listening or watching this, I would encourage you to record these things. So you don't need to record an hour-long speech or an hour-long tour, but you can record that and break it up into little pieces. Like, here's our piece on how you prep your kids for the first day of camp. Here's our healthcare piece. Here's our integration piece. But have that available to those families that can't make it. And even families, when they register, send them out last year's version of that and still invite them to come to the new one, because I want to see the place. I want to see the drop-off place, the picnic bench, the amphitheater. They want to see those important and timely aspects of the day at camp. That'll make them comfortable.
What did they use? What software they use for video conferencing? You know?
They were using Google Hangouts last I checked. You could easily do it on Zoom. Nice thing about Zoom is that you have a free version that you can have meetings of up to 40 minutes, which is just a nice barrier, a nice boundary on what that. But you can pay for Zoom to hold Zoom meetings like we do for podcast recordings, and meetings can be as long as you need. And you just set up so it records automatically.
Awesome.
Nice.
Great.
So this has been a great introduction to important issues in day camp in this year. And we don't have enough time to do them all in the show, which is why we're pleased to announce that we are going to be doing a CampHacker day camp show, not in this day camp, in the CampHacker stream. This will be the introduction to it. You will see that when this show comes out, we are going to have released the first couple episodes of the day camp show. So there'll be a link in our show notes of how to get to there. We'll do a big announcement on but when all that comes out, we'll have a few shows ready to go. But I'm excited to have the three of you here. Sam and Aaron and Andy are going to be our consistent co-hosts of the Day Camp Show. So nice that listeners will get to hear an introduction to the way that the three of you think about these things. So I'm really excited about that, and it's going to be a big part of the development of the CampHacker media stuff that we're doing throughout this year. So it is our pleasure to announce the Day Camp podcast, and my pleasure to thank these three people for the work they've been doing to get ready for it. We've been months in the preparation already, and I'm excited to have that go out into the world and to see all the discussions that are coming. We've done a lot of work on what those discussions are going to be. So,
well, thank you, Travis, for giving us a forum. We appreciate it. No. We love the CampHacker podcasts the way they are, but they tend to be very resident camp heavy. And we feel that the day camp animal is a unique beast, and we're going to explore that in depth, right? And not have to worry about, well, it's not the same if you were in the woods at a sleepaway camp.
Yeah.
Just be able to and the kids go home at night and tell their parents.
Right.
Yeah.
And the staff go home at night and have their own staff lives that sometimes it's hard to bring them back in.
Yeah, Monday mornings at day camp are interesting for staff.
Yeah. To get them focused the next day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So thank you for the three of that. I'm excited for people to get to hear those shows today. You can go to iTunes or your whatever app you use for podcasts on your phone and just search for the Day Camp Podcast, and you will be able to find it there. So thank you. As part of this CampHacker show, what I want to say is that we're going to move ourselves now onto the last part of the normal CampHacker show, and that is our tool of the week. So if you're just joining this because you're a fan of Aaron or Andy or Sam and haven't watched a CampHacker show before, each show we ask our panelists to bring a tool that makes them a better camp director. And the budget is from $0 to $80,000 at this point. And it is just something that helps you every day. We hope it's the little things that make your day just a little bit better, but it can be anything. I wanted to start, Sam, with yours. What is the tool that you use that makes you a better camp director?
I just started using an app called Kahoot. It's Kahoot !! And basically, it's either $9.95 a month or $19.95 a month, depending how much you want to do on it. But I'm using it to, at the end of my camp training, I used to have a written test. How boring. Now I can put the questions that I wanted to see that my staff really did retain into a multi-choice question on Kahoot. So they can bring their phones, I give them the link, and they answer the questions, their time questions on their phone, and it'll put it on the big screen, who was first, who got it right, and then by the time you get all the way through, somebody wins. And you can do it in a group setting, so this table can work together to answer the question, which I kind of liked better than the individual. But it's been an exciting way to end training.
That sounds awesome.
Cool.
Sounds awesome. Andy, what's your tool of the week?
Well, from $0 to $80,000, this one is $4.99, and it's called Dark Skies. It's a weather app that was recommended to me by Russ Coleman, who's the director of Coleman Day Camp out on Long Island, because when you're a day camp director, you have to be part meteorologist. Just no doubt about it, right?
Yeah,
we're waking up at 6 in the morning and we're looking at the progression of where the radar screens and all that kind of thing. And if it's going to be over 100 degrees, are we going to cancel the field sports? And if it's going to be liquid sun shining, are we going to be doing various other alternatives? And I was using Intellicast, I was using the Weather Channel, I was using all different ones, and this has been the most dependable one for me, Dark Skies. And I know it's an ominous sort of negative name. I wish it was a little happier, but it tells you about the impending doom that's about to come to you, and in a very timely way. And the radar screens are very accurate. And the best part of it to me is it tells you will get notifications. Rain will be starting in 10 minutes in your area, kind of thing. I would say 95% accurate. And then it'll say rain ending in your area in 25 minutes, that kind of thing. Very, very accurate also, which I have found it's nice. If people know the end is near, it's great. And also, if the end is not near, it's good to know that also. So it gives you sort of like an hour look into the future, and it guesses when the rain is going to go based on the radar screens and all that kind of thing. We're a very technology-free camp. I leave it on my desk. I don't look, I come in and access it that way. But yeah, I've given it out to probably 100 other camp directors, and they've all thanked me profusely. And I know there's some cheap skates out there that don't want to pay $4.99 for an app. Do it. Worth it. Charge it. Run it through as an expense.
Yep.
It's worth it.
That is great. Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome.
Aaron, what's your tool?
And so for me, there's a lot, for many camps, day camps specifically. There's a lot of logistics involved with scheduling our campers in activities throughout the day, and we do a lot of scheduling. We have about 50 or over 50 groups at camp, and each one has an individual schedule. We don't have individual schedules for each camper, but there's a lot of activities and a lot of groups, and logistics have been a huge challenge when it comes to organizing those schedules. And so we've done many different methods over the years, including Excel spreadsheets and manually providing boards where counselors will select activities on and just write them down on a physical board. But we found this software a few years ago that relatively new, and it's been extremely helpful. It allows us to do most of what we need to do, and there's customization features where you can override some of the features that it has, so you can do your own changes. It's called Camptivities. It was designed by a camp camp director who runs a camp similar to many of ours, and they have the same sort of challenges, and so it's very intuitive. It's very much what a camp a camp director needs in terms of handling all these logistics and doing it in a easy to use, effective, efficient way. And it's all online. You can do it. You can have multiple people working on it at the same time, and it's been great for us.
Perfect.
Yeah, and shout out to Ryan Rosen out at that and from Los Angeles, camp director, who helped put it together. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Nice. That is awesome, Aaron. Thank you for sharing those. My tool of the week today is this principle, and it's a principle philosophy of mine, and it is a tool to support that. So my philosophy when I'm thinking about how to sell parents on camp, what I think about all the time, is that we have to first build trust before we ask people to hand over their kids to us. Before we have to work to build trust before we even say, hey, would you like to send your kid here? And I've been collaborating with a number of camp directors over the past year and a half. This was started by a group that I did a year-long masterclass with. And we've been collecting evergreen articles in just a form online that anybody can fill out. It's called Being Useful to Parents. And it is articles that aren't necessarily, these are all the benefits of camps. These are even broader picture, be useful to camp. So it be useful to parents. So it is stuff about raising boys. It's stuff about what it's like to have conversations with your kids. It's stuff about the benefits of the outdoors and getting out of nature and how that helps on kids' development. It's a huge spectrum of things. And so I would invite all CampHacker listeners to go to camphacker.tv/podcast, look for this episode there, and then you will see the way that you can contribute. So the price of admission is contribute one article. Doesn't matter if it's been duplicated, just one article that would be useful to parents and isn't timely. Like, it's not, come join us in the next 2 weeks for this thing. Instead, it's a bigger resource philosophy, something to be useful that we can all as an industry work to build trust with parents by saying, hey, I was thinking of prospects, current camp families, all of it. Here's 3 things that I saw this month that would be really helpful to you as a parent. And so I invite everybody to come and contribute to the Being Useful list. And then when you contribute, I will then add you on the background Google spreadsheet, and you can copy and paste away with that and use those there. So I hope that everybody will do that. Go to camphacker.tv/podcast and find the link to the Being Useful article. So all of these things that all 4 of us have been talking about in our tools will be there, plus some of the other resources that we have been talking about. The other thing I would say is that in conclusion, as we think about wrapping up this show, I want to remind people that we're putting out these stuff for free every week, or not every week. We're putting out this stuff for free every year, over and over again, in order to better the people, better the camp community. And so if you have people who who we could appreciate the show, please do share it. You can do that from the podcast app. You can do it from YouTube, depending on where you are, where you're getting the show from. But also, if you go to camphacker.tv/iTunes, you can leave us a review there. So if you got something useful today, then 2 minutes on iTunes is very helpful to help us get the show in front of other people. And we'll be doing a lot of that same ask when you follow these 3 Into the Day Camp podcast. Make sure that you give us your reviews there on the show so that more people can find these resources. In conclusion today, I want to thank my 3 co-hosts for being here. Andy, if someone has some follow-up questions to what you said, how can they get in touch with you?
The best way to get me is andy@libertylakedaycamp.com. I'm happy to help. I do it all the time.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andy, for being here today.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
It's Sam. How about you? How can people get in touch with you if they have a question?
sthompson@crystalllakeparks.org.
Great. Thank you, Sam.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And Aaron, what's the best way to follow up with you?
For me, it's my first name, which is, I'll spell it for you. It's not the typical way of spelling Aaron. It's EHREN at camprobinhood.ca.
.ca. Excellent. Thanks, Aaron. It's good to hear from you today.
It's a pleasure being here. Thanks.
Right on. So in conclusion, I want to thank everybody for being here. We offer our huge debt of gratitude to those who are the patrons who help pay for this show, and also to Matt Hansberger, who's our producer and editor, for getting this show out to everyone. You can find Matt's show notes, as I said, camphacker.tv/podcast. And thanks for the evening, friends.